Hey, what's up you guys? It is me, Emmerich, and welcome back to Movies and a Mag Show where I sit down most weeks and talk about a movie whilst putting on a mug. Get it? So, last week, I wasn't here. Your boy was busy. Your boy's been booked, blessed, filming shit. I've been away, and if you guys so happened to peek my Instagram, then you would have seen that I'm in an upcoming movie. If I hadn't made it already immediately obvious by fucking manifesting this for about, I don't know, a year and a half, it is indeed a rom-com. You know how many goddamn rom-coms have I reviewed on this channel, and how many times have I said that I really want to be in a rom-com, and then wouldn't you know, the first movie that releases with me in it just so happens to be a rom-com. You put it out into the world, look what happens. I don't know what I want next. I think maybe I want a drama, or maybe something where I get to be, you know, a little bit sexy. I think I want to be a little bit sexy. But that's not what we're talking about today. That's just the reason I wasn't here last week. So I will talk more about this movie in an upcoming video, so stay tuned. But today, I wanted to kick off like a sub-series, like a series within a series. I want to focus, not necessarily every single week, but I want to have like a sub-genre where I specifically review camp classics. You know, a lot of the movies that I tend to focus on are so bad it's good. When you're looking for movies that are so bad it's good, you will unfortunately come across probably maybe 7 times out of 10 movies that are just actually pretty bad. Sometimes I don't want to watch a shitty movie every week. Sometimes I want to watch something that brings me some joy. And so I've decided that every now and then when it tickles my fancy, I'll review a camp movie. I decided to start with a personal favorite of mine, one that I don't actually think a lot of people would class as a camp classic, but this is my list, and this is my channel, and I count it as a camp classic. So sit down, shut the fuck up, and get ready, because today we are reviewing 2003's Down with Love.
You've got it bad, and that is not good.
I don't want love. It's against everything I stand for.
I've got her exactly where I want her.
Or maybe you just like spending time with her.
This is terrible. We're behaving just like two people in love.
Uh-oh.
Down with Love.
The thing that stuck with me most about this movie, and the thing that really made it kind of come to mind when I thought that, ooh, I really want to review some camp classics, was the fashion. Like, this movie is so visually appealing. The sets, the props, the makeup, and the costuming are almost like another character in the movie. The movie is set in New York in the 1960s, and it's not like it's really set in New York. It's a fantasy New York. It's an overly idealized version of the 1960s that never really existed. It is essentially the early 2000s does the 80s doing the 60s. And if you don't know what any of that means, I'm essentially just trying to say that the movie itself is set in the 60s, but not the real world 1960s. Everything is peachy keen, and you want to add the words "you see" to everything in a mid-Atlantic accent. It's time for dinner, you see. She's the new girl about town, don't you know? All that out of the way, let's get into the movie. We open in Banner House Publishing, a book publishing company where a Miss Barbara Novak, played by Renee Zellweger, is meeting a Miss Vicky Hiller, played by Sarah Paulson, as Vicky has recently signed Barbara to their publishing company and is about to publish her first book. Girl, I'm not gonna lie, as soon as you see Renee Zellweger in this movie, you just know that the fashion is going to be on point. So the two of them are walking through Vicky's office, and it's revealed that they are 1 week away from launching Barbara's new book, Down with Love. We are then introduced to Vicky's assistant, who is a woman named Gladys. And Gladys really isn't in the movie much. I only bring her up because she's played by Rachel Dratch, who, honestly, I just find her hilarious. She plays the borderline spinster secretary with the pencils in her hair who's like a little bit frazzled. And you can see from a mile away that, you know, she's going to be turned into a working woman of the world by Barbara and Vicky. I know it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen. We all know it's going to happen.
Down with love. Here, here. I only wish somebody had written your book 10 years ago before it was too late for me.
We're then introduced to Maurice. And Maurice is another really relatively minor character that I just want to highlight really quickly. And then I probably won't talk about him for the rest of the video. He is the graphic designer production manager for Barbara's book and shows them the cover of Down with Love. And Vicky just says, oh, she knows it's so close to the launch and she's so sorry because the guys in production must have been riding his tail. And he just replies, I'm not sorry. And then you get this little sound effect, and then he zooms in on Barbara's face, and she's like, and then he just skips away. And this movie really just came in and said, hey, gay rights.
Great job, Maurice. Sorry if the guys in reproduction have been riding your tail.
Well, I'm not.
Remember what I said about this being based in like a slightly tweaked version of the 60s? Well, they did modernize that one element of it, but what hasn't been modernized is gender relations. Not until Barbara Novak. Because for now, you see, this is still a town of big business, you hear? And big business is men's business. And so Barbara is introduced to a board full of white men with initials for names.
E.G. C.B. C.W. J.B. J.R. R.J.
Okay.
Anyway, so at this board meeting, it becomes immediately apparent that none of these big busy businessmen respect Vicky at all. It's explained to us that the premise of Barbara's book is that women will be unable to gain true happiness until they are equal participants in the workforce. The only way they are going to achieve this is by saying Down with Love, the name of the book. And now Barbara makes a point of saying that she is adamant that women should refrain from love only and not sex. Women need to follow 3 simple steps. Step 1, refraining from men altogether. This is to separate the sense of pleasure that a man can bring from love. Pleasure that a man can bring. And in order to do this, women need to practice a self-pleasuring technique. And this technique has been scientifically proven to bring women as much, if not more, pleasure than a man ever could.
Self-pleasuring technique that I've detailed in chapter 7, entitled Up with Chocolate. You see,
If you can't tell by now, this whole movie is one massive, long, hard innuendo that just edges you over and over and over and over again for like 1 hour and 48 minutes and 33 seconds. The long and short of it is that quitting men can freeze you up and allows women to cultivate a sense of self-worth and also to pursue more professional endeavors and interests. This will allow them to transcend to level 3, where women will finally be equitable partners in the workplace with men. The beauty of this program is that by level 3, women will have achieved such a sense of self that they will be able to have sex in the same way that a man does, detached from feelings and, as Barbara Novak says, a la carte. Obviously, the publishing men kind of hate this. It threatens her entire way of living. And one of them tries to explain to Barbara that you're in New York City now, and the men here aren't like the men from the tiny town wherever it is that you're from, you know? They're gonna eat you alive. And as he does so, we are introduced to the male protagonist of this film, Catcher Block, played by Ewan McGregor.
Easy, baby. Careful you don't fall out.
And he works for a magazine called No, for men in the know, you know. And No is in turn run by the incomparable David Hyde Pierce, otherwise known in this movie as Peter McManus. And the two of them get into this very long homoerotic tete-a-tete about a story that Catcher was late in submitting, and he was writing it on location because he was trying to find Nazis in Argentina, but he ended up going to a NASA-sponsored luau with 3 triplets from the Copacabana, and he ended up finding Nazis inside NASA because the US wanted to use Nazi scientists in order to get them to the moon in order to win the space race.
Lovely. Shakes her maracas. And Rosa bounces her bongos while Nina is all hands. 120 words a minute.
So Barbara and Vicky leave their meeting, and Barbara's super upset because, you know, all the dudes with initials were just not taking them seriously. But Vicky is like, meh, don't worry about it, hen. I've got a plan. I've got you a cover story in the most prestigious men's magazine in the world. No, a magazine for men in the know now. Written by Catcher Block. So we skip over to Catcher and Peter. And Peter is trying to convince Catcher to, you know, do this interview because he kind of has a thing for Vicky, but Catcher doesn't really want to do the interview with Barbara because he's kind of a vain little bitch and he thinks she's going to be an ugly spinster. After some prodding, he eventually agrees and calls Barbara and tells her to meet him in the mahogany room in 10 minutes. Before Barbara can arrive, Catcher is greeted by air hostess and apparent recurring fling, Gwendolyn. And the two of them just straight up get up and leave to go fuck. Unprofessional. But then Barbara and Vicky walk in literally 2 seconds later and oh my god, the looks. Mama, that entrance was iconic. Okay, so Catcher calls Barbara on the phone on a landline in the middle of a restaurant somehow. And the two of them have a very sexually charged conversation about how Catcher found a little English fox that just kept nuzzling him and doesn't want to be alone right now.
I'm so sorry, Miss Novak. The darndest thing. I was waiting for you at the bar, and a little English foxhound walked right in, came up to me and started nuzzling me. Well, she seemed so lost, and she didn't want to go with anyone else, so I just had to take care of her.
Mr. Block, that is so thoughtful. I remember reading that the true test of a man's character is how he treats a defenseless creature. Tell me, Mr. Block, how is the little bitch now?
So anyway, they rain check until dinner, and then Vicky and Barbara show up again into absolute looks, only to be stood up by Catcher Block. They then reschedule a second time, this time for breakfast the next day. And then again, Vicky and Barbara both show up in absolute looks, only to be stood up by Catcher Block. And on the third time of him doing this exact same thing, Barbara has just had it when he calls her to yet again move their appointment so he can fuck around. She's like, you know what? No, you can suck my dick. I am not doing this interview with you. Get fucked. I probably would have done the same thing.
Goodbye, Mr. Block. Forever.
This does have some unfortunate side effects on Vicky and Peter because you know how Peter was interested in Vicky And it's kind of alluded to that Vicky is interested in Peter too, so, you know, cute. But unfortunately, since Katja and Barbara are now at war, two of them can't really be together, which is sad. Because Peter really needs to get laid. So at this point, Barbara is, you know, she's pretty upset with all the setbacks. Never fear, because Vicky is there and she manages to get Barbara's book onto the Ed Sullivan Show, which my research has told me was some kind of popular American show a la Jimmy Kimmel. And their plan works. Down with Love becomes an instant classic, an overnight sensation sold around the world. Barbara has started a feminist revolution. Gladys shows back up. Remember I told you I was going to tell you when Gladys showed back up? Well, Gladys shows back up and she is a new woman. No longer does she have pencils in her hair. No longer is she looking drab. She is in a tight little work suit. Congratulations, Gladys. You've graduated. All of this publicity does mean, however, that Katja now knows what Barbara looks like. He thought she was just an ugly spinster. And the fact that she's not entices and confuses him. Woman can be pretty and not want to be wife to man. What? And since the book is a huge, massive success, he decides that he actually wants to do the interview now, but because he was such a dick to them, Vicky and Barbara are like, you know what? We're busy. But that's not all. Barbara is now a celebrity in her own right. She goes on a television show to discuss her book. One of the hosts asks her, in one of the chapters of your book, you talk about the worst type of man. Have you met any guys like that? And Barbara just looks straight at the camera and she goes, catch a block, him, that bitch, that dude right there, piece of shit, calls him out like a rat.
Shanice.
Yeah?
Your mouth is moving a lot like a rat. Yappa, 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 yappa.
Needless to say, the endless array of women that Catch a Block would usually seduce want absolutely nothing to do with him. Which, of course, in turn causes Katja to have a self-righteous hissy fit and vow to expose Barbara Novak by tricking her into falling in love with him by being the one thing that her book does not account for. A man that wants something more than sex. So Katja decides to stage like a run-in with Barbara, who incidentally is also frustrated because for all of her talking about, you know, wanting to have sex a la carte, just like a man does, yappa, 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 she actually can't get a guy. All men are just afraid of her. So he stages a run-in in a dry cleaning place and pretends to be an astronaut named Zip Martin, who doesn't know what Down with Love is because he's been on a top secret mission conveniently off planet. And it works. Barbara falls for it, and she obviously has no idea what Catch a Block looks like because he never actually met up with her any of those times he was supposed to. So to her, she's just meeting a dude on the street and he doesn't know who she is, so she might actually get some. Oh, and I do want to note that there is an ongoing subplot with Vicky and Peter. It is a very cute subplot, but the long and short of it is Peter has to woo Vicky in a pretty condensed amount of time before Katja writes his expose to expose Barbara. I am gonna have to start referring to Katja as Skip for several bits of this to kind of delineate between Katja and Skip. I've been calling him Skip. His name is Zip. Did I call him Skip or Zip? Or Chip? Anyway, it's Zip. I don't know what I've been saying. Barbara and Zip are dating. They're going to Broadway shows. They're watching fucking, I don't know, Hello Dolly or whatever the fuck. Oh, and a couple of dates in, there's this one really interesting scene that I wanted to highlight specifically because of how innovative I think the camera movements were in it.
Hello.
Hello, Barbara. It's Zip.
Hello, Zip.
I was wondering if I could ask you to do me a very special favor.
Sure, Zip, anything.
Well, I know we plan to go out, but, well, I thought it might be fun to stay in. I'm in the mood for a home-cooked meal.
Major Martin, I have no desire to stay cooped up in the kitchen, slaving over a hot stove and a sink full of dirty dishes.
Skip forward a little bit, and the two of them are having another date, and at the end of it, Zip suggests that the two of them go to bed. So he's trying to eke out not sleeping with her. And she's like, all right, okay, then I think we need to call it a day. If we're not gonna smash, then why am I here? Honestly, valid question. So she tries to end it with him, but he pulls her into a kiss for the first time. And then the music plays and it's like, no, that's the Charlie's Angels theme song. Where did that come from? All of this so far is pretty much playing right into Katja's plan. Barbara admits, I don't really think I can keep doing this because I'm not supposed to be catching feelings for you, but, you know, I really think I am. So Katja goes back to his apartment, and I didn't really mention this before because it's in one of the Peter subplots, but Katja and Peter swapped apartments because Katja is trying to woo Barbara as Zip, and Zip would never live in a shag pad, which is what Katja lives in. So he swapped with Peter, who lives in more of a feminine-friendly environment. But then on one of their side escapades, Vicky and Peter went like downtown and went to a club, and then they brought a party back to Katja's apartment and turned it into like a swingers sex jazz club. And Katja shows up, he's like, oh, sweet, I can finally get some pussy. And obviously Vicky thinks that the house is Peter's, so she invites Barbara, and wouldn't you know it, she walks straight in to Katja, who she thinks is Zip, in the middle of getting down with a woman who is wearing nothing but a beret.
Ask me why I mourn.
Why do you mourn, baby?
I mourn because you were shrouded in the suit and tie that Madison Avenue will bury you in alive.
Well, if it'll cheer you up, you can help me out of it.
Zip then tries to get out of the situation by telling Barbara that he didn't know where he was because he came to the apartment at the behest of Katja Block, a journalist who wants to write a piece about his work with NASA. And Katja had also written that story about the NASA Nazis at the very, very beginning of the movie when he was having that conversation with Peter, so this is believable. And then when he got to the party, the bitch in the beret put some tobacco in his pipe that she got from San Francisco and made everything go fuzzy. Then Barbara's like, oh my God, did she drug you? And he was like, yes, she drugged me right into that room. Plausible deniability. A word can have two meanings. And since Barbara already had a pre-existing relationship with Katja Block where he stood her up multiple times, she believes that the only reason that Katja Block asked Zip to come to the apartment was so that he could say that Zip's top secret work at NASA was just full of drug-smoking hippies and then double expose the expose that he already wrote at the beginning of the movie. Follow that logic.
Emotional, damn it!
To top it all off, at the end of the argument, Zip is like, hey, this argument made me realize that I'm ready to get to know you a whole lot better, all the way better. And Barbara's like, dude, can you just rail me already? So the stage is kind of set for their final, you know, hurrah, if you catch what I'm saying. But a side effect of this is that Peter really needs to hurry things along with Vicky. And so at this point, because of the amount of false starts that the two of them have had, Vicky just fully thinks that Peter's gay and is like in love with Katja Block. To her credit, she's just like, dude, dude, it's fine. Like, we can still get married and you can still be gay. I don't really care that much. And obviously the fact that this movie has David Hyde Pierce, an out gay actor, and Sarah Paulson, an out gay actor, having this interaction, even though in the script, neither of them are actually gay. It's just a series of misunderstandings. I don't know, it adds something to the movie for me, and I just think it's real sweet. Don't ask me to explain it any further than that. I just wanted to throw it in there that I thought that was super cute. So because Vicky thinks that Peter is gay, that leads to him saying, no, this is all one big misunderstanding. Catch Your Block is trying to do an expose on Barbara. That causes Vicky to be like, what the fuck? You knew this all along and you didn't say shit to me? Wow, that's really fucking rude, bro. To be honest, that's fair. That's valid. Don't fuck with my bag. Hateful. So Vicky's storming off to go find Barbara and expose Catch a Block. Meanwhile, Barbara and Zip are getting busy. You know, things are getting steaming. But Barbara just can't do it. She just can't go through with having sex with him because she wants more than sex. And in response to this, Katja very surreptitiously turns on like a massive knockoff recording device and is like, yes, Barbara Novak, continue, Barbara Novak. She needs him to know how she feels about him, and how she feels about him is that she loves him. And more than anything, she just wants to be with Zip. But right as the two of them are about to make Shakespeare's metaphorical based with two backs, who should walk in but Gwendolyn? Do you remember Gwendolyn? She kind of came in earlier in the movie. She was one of the stewardesses that Katja Block was having sex with. She walks in and she's like, Katja, you're getting sloppy. Don't just leave your key out there if you're in here banging some other bitch. So Gwendolyn has revealed to Barbara that Zip is Katja Block. The betrayal. And Katja tells Barbara to admit it. He got Barbara down with Love Novak to fall in love. To which she just kind of goes, ugh. And then turns off the recording device, showing that she knew it was there the entire time. And are you guys ready for another mammoth game of 3D chess? Well, I hope you are. Because Barbara reveals that no, she's not going to storm out of there and she's not going to be upset because she's not Barbara Novak. In fact, there is no Barbara Novak, and that she never fell in love with Zip Martin because all along she had been in love with Katja Block. She didn't just want to be another notch in his bedpost. So she concocted a plan. I cannot explain this plan any better than the movie can. It is supervillain levels of 3D chess. So I'm gonna put in the clip from the movie, but for copyright reasons, because I have the feeling that this clip goes over a minute, I'm gonna like intersperse it with picture of me, picture of a monkey, picture of a cute cat, me doing this.
For 3.5 weeks, I worked as your secretary. I don't expect you to remember me. I wasn't a blonde then. But you did ask me out, and it broke my heart to say no. But I loved you too much. I couldn't bear to become just another notch in your bedpost. With your dating habits, I knew that even if I was lucky enough to get a regular spot on your rotating schedule, I would never have your undivided attention long enough for you to fall in love with me. I knew I had to quit my job as your secretary and write an international bestseller, controversial enough to get the attention of a New York publisher, as well as No Magazine, but insignificant enough that as long as I went unseen, No Magazine's star journalist would refuse to do a cover story about it. I knew that every time we were supposed to meet, you would get distracted by one of your many girlfriends and stand me up, and this would give me a reason to fight with you over the phone and declare that I wouldn't meet with you for 100 years. And then all I would have to do was be patient and wait the 2 or 3 weeks it would take for everyone in the world to buy a copy of my bestseller, and then I would begin to get the publicity I would need for you to one, see what I look like, and two, see me denounce you in public as the worst kind of man. I knew that this would make you want to get even by writing one of your exposés. And in order to do that, you would have to go undercover, assume a false identity, and pretend to be the kind of man who would make the kind of girl I was pretending to be fall in love. And I knew that since I was pretending to be a girl who would have sex on the first date, you would have to pretend to be a man who wouldn't have sex for several dates. And in doing so, we would go out on lots of dates to all the best places and all the hit shows until finally, one night, you would take me back to your place that you were pretending was someone else's in order to get the evidence you needed to write your exposé by seducing me until I said I love you. But saying I love you was also my plan. I just wanted to tell you the truth so that when you heard me say I love you, you would know that I knew who you were and you would know who I was. Then you, the great Catcher Block, would know that you'd been beaten at your own game. By me, Nancy Brown, your former secretary, and I would have once and for all set myself apart from all the other girls you've known. All those other girls that you never really cared about by making myself someone like the one person you really love and admire above all others. You. And when you realized that you had finally met your match, I would have at last gained the respect that would make you want to marry me first and seduce me later.
So there you have it. She knew that he was Catcher Block the entire time. It was all part of her master plan to turn herself into the one person that he could actually respect and love himself, and that her real name is Nancy Brown, not Nancy Brown. So then Nancy and Catcher kiss passionately, but then Gwendolyn comes back in and she's like, oh my god, you're Barbara Novak. FYI, I love you. Thank you on behalf of all women for really advancing the women's liberation movement. And then after she leaves, Catcher turns around and he's like, oh bro, wow, you fooled the whole fucking world. Sucks for them, but you're gonna be fine because you're just gonna, move to the suburbs and live your little life as my wife. But Nancy's like, no. In becoming Barbara Novak, I didn't account for the fact that I would actually become Barbara Novak. And now, I hate to say it, but I don't want 8 kids and a white picket fence. I'm officially down with love. Level 3. Miss Mama just don't want love no more. There's some kind of old saying somewhere. I think it's in some of the later books of Dune, It's like, you are what you pretend to be. And bitch, she pretended and then she became. Don't dream it. Be it. Anyway, so she pieces out with Vicky, who punches Catcher in the face, and then Catcher goes to Peter and he's like, man, I love her. And then he comes up with the idea to write Catcher Block Exposed and tell everybody how he fell in love with Barbara Novak in order to get her back. Oh, and I should also mention that Vicky gets fired because Down with Love is so popular that the head initial guys, the guys with the initials from the beginning of the movie, his mistress no longer wants to sleep with him, so he fires Vicky, and then her and Barbara start their own publishing company called Now, magazine for women who are in the now. Not to be confused with No, the magazine for men who are in the know, So Barbara, aka Nancy, I'm going to use whichever one interchangeably, probably Barbara because I'm more used to saying it, and Vicky are in their new offices, they're slaying, they're living life. And can I just say, in this scene, Renee Zellweger is wearing this absolutely fucking stunning white dress with a white turban and this gold brooch, and oh my god.
Boy, am I glad it finally occurred to you that you were a multi-millionaire many times over and we could start our own business.
Not since Gale Weathers in Scream in that neon green power suit have I had so much outfit envy. This look, mwah. Anyway, so Catcher comes in for an interview and he's like, hey bitch, you have to interview me for the job as your personal assistant because if you didn't, that would be gender discrimination. And the two of them have some very sexually charged banter in which Katya informs Barbara that he is what she might want to call a new man, and that he would very much like to consider a new position underneath a woman, and that one day, hopefully, she'll post something about how she became a woman in between the meek brunette Nancy Brown and the sleek blonde Barbara Novak. And so he walks out of her office and he waits for Barbara to follow, but she doesn't. She doesn't go after him, and you're sat there thinking, oh my God, bitch, is she really down with love? Is she really a down with love girl? Is she not gonna follow him? And he rings the elevator and she's still not there. The suspense, bitch. But then the elevator doors open and who's there? Miss Barbara Novak, aka Nancy Brown, and she says, something in between a blonde and a brunette. And she rips off her turban, pushes out her hair, and wouldn't you know it, she's a redhead now, bitch. Something in between a blonde and a brunette. She's not down with love, she's up with love. And who does she love? Him. The two of them then get on board a NASA helicopter and fly to Vegas to get married. Roll the credits. Finn. The movie is so good. I actually don't have anywhere to go, so I'm not getting changed, but we are gonna have some final thoughts. Okay, so if it wasn't immediately apparent for all of my glowing praise throughout this overview, I think that this movie is fucking genius. I think that it's so clever, it's so quick, it's so funny, it's so witty. There are certain movies that you just watch as a queer person and you're just like, what gay wrote this? Because this was someone's gay vision brought to life. And so I did a little digging and I went into, you know, the credits and had a look through the director. Didn't seem like it was the director's gay vision, but then I looked at the writers and there were two writers listed on this project, one of which was a guy called David Drake, and the other one was a woman named Eve Alert, something like that. And I think it may have been a bit of a combination of the both of them who brought this fabulous gay vision into existence, because David Drake was also a writer on Legally Blonde 2, and so was Eve. And David, according to Wikipedia, was also in Philadelphia, which is another queer movie, and was also in a stage show called Vampire Lesbians of Sodom. So, you know, I have an inkling that it might be him. And then Eve was also on Will and Grace, but since this movie, they only did Legally Blonde 2 and then nothing. Like, where did they go? Because this movie was so cleverly written, so expertly crafted, so quick, and according to Wikipedia, they're both still alive, so all I want to know is, like, why aren't you making more movies? You need to make me some more shit. Watching this movie is a complete and utter joy from start to finish, and I seriously recommend that anyone who has not watched it, please, go give it a watch. Be swayed by my opinion. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You can find me here every movie Monday, and make sure to stay tuned for next week, where we are going to be doing something extra special. I do have the premiere of my movie next Saturday, so if I'm not here, that's why. However, if everything goes according to plan, I will have the video ready to go by Wednesday, and we will be watching Spice World, the movie. So buckle in, bitches. The campery continues. Stay safe and have a beautiful week. Bye!